Good morning.
Good morning.
Charles Fillmore in Atom Smashing Power of Mind, page 87, wrote, "To be ignorant of mind and its laws is to be a child playing with fire, or a man manipulating powerful chemicals without knowing their relation to one another. This is universally true, and all who are not learning about mind are in like danger, because all are dealing with the great cause from which springs forth all the conditions that appear in the lives of men and women. Mind is the one reservoir from which we draw all that we make up into our world, and it is through the laws of mind that we form our lives. Let us now use the power of the mind to form our lives by speaking this affirmation on the screen together. As a spiritual master, I am preparing my mind for the best life has to offer by drawing clear boundaries on what I allow my mind to focus. I focus on self-love and service through spiritual living. Thank you.
So June, the month of June, the topic is called minding the mind. Because when we mind the mind, then all else falls into place. So this is a foundational aspect of our teachings, of New Thought teachings from the very beginning. And actually it goes back to ancient wisdom, far, far back as far as the Vedas. And so basically, the idea is that what occurs in our minds informs everything in our lives, from our relationship with the divine, to our relationship with others, to our relationship with others, with ourselves, to our relationship with money and work and play and health, our relationship with everything. The list goes on and on and on. So minding the mind, caring for the mind. And I love that idea of setting boundaries on what it is we allow the mind to focus on. We are in charge of the mind. And yes, thoughts arise, and they may not be thoughts that we want. And so the powerful thing is when we remember who we are, and this is what we'll keep coming back to it over and over again, remember that we are in charge of that. The mind is meant to be the servant of the spirit essence of who we are. So I have a quote that I think will really set the tone beautifully. It's a quote by Holmes, but not Sherlock Holmes and not Ernest Holmes. It's a quote by Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell. Right. Okay. And listen to this. It's so perfect for this month. A mind that is stretched can never go back to its old dimensions. A mind that is stretched can never go back to its old dimensions. Wow, how true that is. And when I think about that, I think about the time when my mind was blown or stretched to the point where I could not go back to the old dimension. And it's so powerful to me how when those moments take place that they're like embedded in memory. And so I can remember it was back in 1986. I went to a Unity Church for the first time, which is another New Thought community down in West Palm Beach, which is the one that Amity attends right now, by the way, all of those of you who know Amity and Jeffrey. And so I visited that particular church at the time. My sister was going there, and these new concepts were presented to me that were pretty amazing. And also, they had a Course in Miracles study group that was right after the service that we went to. So my mind was like blown right and left. I'd been attending Methodist church for, I was what people called a pillar of the church. And yet my mind was blown so much by these concepts that even though I went back to the Methodist church for like 4 more years, I was also studying A Course in Miracles with a Course in Miracles group. And so I was allowing the mind to begin to integrate this new philosophy, and to the point where I knew that I had to move on. I had to find something that was more in alignment with what I believed. And then in 1989, it was December of 1989, I walked into what was called the Wilmington Church of Religious Science. And again, the concepts that were just blowing my mind. I mean, it was one thing to study A Course in Miracles, and that like really prepared the way for me to be able to accept this. I know in A Course in Miracles, I'd learned that true miracles take place in the mind within, that it's a shift from fear into love. And I was learning a lot about ego versus essence and all of that kind of thing. But when I walked in to my very first Science of Mind center, since my sisters, I mean, I got a taste of it then, but I don't think I really quite got it. But I remember sitting there, and the day that I arrived, they had a candidate for ministry. Her name was Reverend Gail Katzman, and she said some things that were so powerful for me. And the essence of it was this, is that all there is God. There's nothing but God. And that this energy being all pervasive and in, through, and as all was the impulse behind creation, and the energy of love itself is the impulse behind creation. And therefore, that included me. That meant that I was an individualized expression of God. That's the first time I heard that term, individualized expression of God. That I was God in form and God in expression. And then here's the term, and I remember reading it over and over several times in the Science of Mind textbook and trying to wrap my mind around it, because I was still in that idea of God is there and I'm here. God's out there somewhere and I'm here. Separation. So when I heard, and then I read more fully, God in me, as me, is me, mind blowing. God in me, as me, is me. I kept reading that over and over again, like trying to really, integrate it, because it was such a different paradigm from what I was raised with. And then, once the mind is blown like that, it's you can't. I couldn't go back to the other old dimension of God out there. Occasionally I would slip into feeling that, but then I'd bring myself back again. It's like, no, 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 no. All is God. It's all God. It's all God. It's all good. So, you may have some mind-blowing incidents and memories yourself. Those are some things to think about. So my intention is to help us to continue to stretch our minds this month, to blow our minds into higher and higher dimensions. Anybody up for that? Okay. So what I want to do is use an Ernest Holmes quote to begin the process. Begin the process. And at the beginning, it's going to seem really obvious, but as we get toward the end of it, there's some challenging statements for many of us. So, and many of us have maybe heard this, but it's good to readdress it, because our minds tend to want to drift off at times back into and get embedded in the conditioned mind, which all of us have been steeped in from the time we were young. All of the ideas that we've been socialized with, and also the stuff that we see in the media and the people that we talk with from day to day who will go down a certain path, and if we're not careful, we can end up going down that path of negativity. So that's why it's important to really go back, to readdress this. So here we go. This is from page 295 in Signs of Mind by Ernest Holmes. As God's thought makes worlds and peoples them with living things, our thought makes our world and peoples it with our experiences. I see. So you might go, okay, yeah, I get that. By the activity of our thought, things come into our life. And we are limited only because we have not known the truth. We are limited only because we have not known the truth. Okay, I create my reality. There it is. And I only limit myself because I have not known the truth, like really known it deep down in my cells. So that's the practice, is continuing to readdress what higher truth is. And Jesus told us, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. There it is. That's the way we move away from that bondage. So the truth again, all there is one life, one presence, one power, one source, one God. And that life is my life. God in me, as me, is me. And if you have a struggle with the word God, because this is a different concept than what many of you have been brought up with, use source, use energy, use whatever word you want to that helps you really integrate this idea of oneness and wholeness. So that is the same truth that blew my mind back in 1986. And again in 1989, when I really was ready for integrating it into my entire, the fabric of my life. So Ernest Holmes continues with his quote. He said, "We have thought that outside things controlled us, when all the time we have had that within, which could have changed everything and given us freedom from bondage. Be transformed by the renewing of your..." Mhm. And so here's the final mind-blowing sentence. He said, "We automatically attract to ourselves just what we think we are. So, wherever we are, however intolerable the situation may be, we are just where we belong." It's like, wow, is that harsh? Or is there a deeper, more profound truth to this? It can feel harsh to somebody very new to this teaching. I get that. But what the idea is that this is the more profound truth, is we find ourselves in a situation not only because we create that reality, but remember that the spirit that is within us is brilliant and designs these different situations to support our evolution. So it says that the profound truth is that wherever we find ourselves is not only the reality we create, but is also perfect for us in that moment as a springboard for more God experience. In other words, every experience is for us, which you've heard me say many times. Every experience is for us. And when we understand it from this higher perspective, then it doesn't come across as harsh. It actually is empowering, because it means that we have within us the creative power to transform ourselves within, that then transforms our experience of life. God in me, as me, is me. So if we remember that God, the changeless good, is always present, then we can walk through any challenge with peace, knowing that we are part of it, that creation, and that truly it is there for us to experience something greater, individually and collectively, because we're all in this together. So breakdowns then often precede breakthroughs in consciousness. The breakdowns that we experience in our lives, those intolerable situations, are precede breakthroughs in consciousness. And here's the thing, the bigger the breakdown, the greater the possibility for a dramatic breakthrough. The bigger the breakdown, the greater the possibility for a dramatic breakthrough. Some years ago, I first was introduced to Barbara Marx Hubbard, and it was at a Association for Global New Thought conference that was out in the Palm Springs area, and she blew my mind again, because she had this whole new concept of the history of our planet that was based on the idea that crises are evolutionary drivers, and without crises, we remain static. How about that? Mind blowing. Crises are evolutionary drivers, otherwise, we remain static. So, there was an evolutionary biologist there too at that conference named Elizabeth Sahtouris. And she kind of went through the history of the universe and showed how crises, mind blowing, you could call it universal blowing, whatever, experiences preceded higher orders of complexity of life. And laid it out step by step by step so we could really see it. Mind-blowing information to realize that crises, no matter how uncomfortable they are, if we embrace them and realize what they're all about, take us to a whole new dimension. They stretch our mind to the point where we can't go back to the old dimension. And I say yes to that. So I have a story that I think will assist and support this concept. It's a story about a father who had 3 adult children. And he was at the point now where he knew it was time to turn the business over to one of his children. And so he gave them a challenge. He said, okay, what I would like to do for all of you to decide who is going to inherit my business is I'd like to offer you each a warehouse, one of my warehouses. They're empty at this point in time. He said, the one who fills that warehouse with the least amount of money, that costs the least amount of money, will be the one who will inherit the business, the entire business. So the first child, the eldest child, filled it with sand. And so the father was thinking, oh, I'm sure he's probably going to be the one who inherits it. But then he went to the next warehouse where the second son had filled it with all of those foam peanuts, which was less expensive. He said, oh, brilliant, this son has got it. And so then he goes to the daughter. I kind of threw that in. In the third warehouse. And he walks in, and she had just put a candle in the center of the room, filled the room with light, the least expensive. Okay, for you guys, it can be a guy. You can. But the point is that it is the light. When we live in that concept of God in me, as me, is me, then what happens is that we bring the light to the situation that shines away the darkness. And those, knowing so many of you here in the way that I do, I have seen you do that over and over again, all of you. Bring that light to a situation. And we do that every time we bring our love, every time we bring a smile, every time we bring an embrace, every time we sing a song, every, every time, all of the different ways in which we contribute to community. We bring that light. And I just can't even imagine how magnificent it must be when you all go out into the world. What a beautiful thing that is. God in me, as me, is me. That is the realization. So here is our job in the world. And it's put so beautifully. This is from A Course in Miracles about light, about turning on the light. And I'll go through it very slowly because I don't know how many of you are familiar with A Course in Miracles. The first line is, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing real can be threatened. What's real? What's real is the essence of who we are, the presence of God. That's what's real. What is real cannot be threatened. Love is real. That cannot be threatened. So those essence qualities of who we are. And the second line is, nothing unreal exists, because everything else is in the world of effects. And the world of effects can be shifted and changed by what is real within us. It's just all temporary stuff. But the reality of who we are is changeless. Love, peace, joy, intelligence, wisdom. And then the final sentence, herein lies the peace of God. Herein lies the peace of God. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Another way of saying what we were just talking about before, God in me, as me, is me, and that cannot be threatened. Ernest Holmes writes, remember God is the silent power behind all things, always ready to pour into our experience that which we need. We must have a receptive and positive faith in the evidence of things not seen with the physical eye, but which are eternal in the heavens. Again, seeing the higher truth in every situation, seeing the good. All is mind, and we must provide a receptive avenue for it. And this is mind with a capital M, the mind of God, that higher truth. All is mind. We must provide a receptive avenue for it as it passes through us into outer expression of our affairs. If we allow the world's opinion to control our thinking, then that will be our demonstration. If we allow the world's opinion to control our thinking, then that will be our demonstration. If, on the other hand, we rise superior to the world, we shall create a new pattern. If we rise superior to the world, we shall create a new pattern. So, here's a test. You ready? We're going to create a new pattern for our nation and our world. So I'd like you to use your imagination. It's time to elect the first world leader, and your vote counts. So I'm going to be describing 3 people in history. And so these are the facts about these 3 individuals who are candidates. Candidate number A associates with crooked politicians, consults with astrologists, has 2 mistresses, chain smokes, and drinks 8 to 10 martinis a day. That's candidate A. Candidate B was kicked out of office 2 times, sleeps until noon, used opium in college, and drinks a quart of whiskey every evening. Candidate B. Candidate C is a decorated war hero, a vegetarian, doesn't smoke, and drinks an occasional beer. So who is your choice for the world leader? Okay. All right. Okay, all right, so here we go. Candidate, these are descriptions of real people. Candidate A, associates with crooked politicians, consults with astrologists, two mistresses, chain smokes, lots of martinis every day. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Candidate B, kicked out of office, sleeps till noon, used opium in college, drinks a quart of whiskey every night. Winston Churchill. hmm Candidate C, a decorated war hero, a vegetarian, doesn't smoke, drinks, and drinks an occasional beer. Adolf Hitler. Mind blowing, yes? Mind blowing. So things aren't always what they seem, right? So let's go back to the principle. There's good for you in everything because God is in everything. Find the good, find God. So as a nation, as a world, we are at an important breakthrough moment. We are. And we as new thought proponents, as new thought presences in the world, have a great opportunity to facilitate a breakthrough with a great power that we have within us, the mind, our attention, where we place our attention. So will we put it on all the horrible things that we think will happen? Is that where we're going to put our attention? Or are we going to put our attention on seeing God or seeing the good in everything? Now, I know how this may seem to some people. I really get this. Well, if we look for the good all the time, are we going to be kind of like Pollyanna, and are we going to not take positive action when we need to take that action? And this is what I've found to be true, that if I look for the good, I am guided into right action. Whereas if I focus on what's wrong, I actually stymie myself from taking positive action. So it doesn't mean that we still have that inner wisdom that knows what to do, but it means that we raise ourselves to a higher vibration. So, like Gandhi, when Gandhi took action, or Martin Luther King, when he took action, or Jesus, when he took action, these great beings, that something profound then happened because they were coming from this higher place. So again, when we choose to see God in everything, we access a power greater than the problem to resolve it. And it transforms us and it transforms the world. So, are you ready to put this into practice, to stretch your mind? Okay. I'd like you to get into small groups of 4 or 5, and in 3 minutes, identify all the good coming out of, or that could come out of, the current world political situation. Okay? So, find your partners. I was looking around and there was just so much energy and oh, it was lovely. And I can feel it. I can feel the energy of the room lifting. Can anybody feel that? Lovely. Were there any major breakthroughs that anybody had? Anybody have some ideas, or maybe we're yes, Jennifer. We decided that Dan's going to run for president. Dan doesn't know that yet. We're going to drive the platform. We're going to be the campaign manager. All right. Our votes for the Speaker of the House. All right, very good. So let's just go ahead and turn within and just surround these realizations in prayer as we just drop down into our hearts and proclaim within the very center of our soul that all there is one life, one presence, one power, one source, one infinite universal love intelligence from which all life springs, and that life therefore is my life. That includes me. That includes all of us. We are individualized expressions of the divine. We are God or life itself in form, the universe itself in form. We are the universe, individualized. And so as I proclaim this from my heart, I truly embrace that God in me, as me, is me. That that declaration of unity and oneness and wholeness from which I reside and stand in my full power. I allow that power of the divine to move through me, as me, and out into the world in a way that I truly extend the love that I am, in a way in which I truly serve by seeing the divine in everything, looking for the good in everything, knowing that I am a change agent. Each one of us are change agents for the planet. Each and every moment we train ourselves and allow ourselves to look for the good. So I give my thanks for this great awareness, for the shift in consciousness, for this mind-blowing awareness of the power and the grace and the magnificence that resides in this very room. I release this word into the universal law of mind, and I invite us all to say with great enthusiasm, yes, and so it is. Thank you.